Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. What if the very thing you've been praying for, working toward, and waiting on is already moving toward you faster than you realize? What if this next chapter isn't about survival, but about victory? You see, life has a way of testing us in the quiet moments, when nobody's watching, when the applause is gone, when the doubts get loud and the nights get long. Some of you walked into this room carrying scars from last year, from the setbacks, the losses, the times you almost quit. But hear me clearly, those moments didn't come to break you, they came to build you. Pressure doesn't destroy purpose, it reveals it. Faith isn't believing when it's easy. Faith is standing tall when the evidence says sit down. Faith is waking up every morning and saying, I don't see it yet, but I trust the process. And that trust, that discipline, that quiet consistency, that's where transformation lives. You are not here by accident. Every delay taught you something. Every closed door redirected you. Every fall strengthened your legs for the climb ahead. What tried to stop, you only proved how strong you were becoming. And the same God who carried you through what you thought you wouldn't survive is already ahead of you, preparing what you haven't yet imagined. 2026 is not a wish. It's not luck. It's a result. A result of showing up when you were tired. A result of believing when it was uncomfortable. A result of choosing purpose over fear and faith over doubt. So straighten your back. Lift your vision. The struggle has an expiration date. The season is changing. And everything you've been through has been lining you up for this moment, because you will win in 2026. Pressure doesn't arrive to punish you. It arrives to introduce you to who you really are. Long before strength is celebrated, it is tested. Long before purpose is applauded, it is challenged. Pressure is not a sign that something is wrong. It is evidence that something important is forming. Nothing meaningful is born in comfort. Comfort preserves, but pressure produces. Think about it. When everything is easy, you coast. You repeat what you already know. You stay who you already are. But when life tightens the grip, when the margin for error disappears, when excuses no longer work, something deeper wakes up. Pressure strips away the masks, the distractions, the noise. It forces you to confront your values, your faith, your discipline, and your resolve. It reveals whether you're committed or just interested. Purpose is not discovered in moments of applause. It's uncovered in moments of isolation. When the phone stops ringing, when support gets quiet, when the plan falls apart, that's when the real questions surface. Will you still show up? Will you still believe? Will you still move forward when there's no guarantee of success? Pressure doesn't ask politely, it demands an answer. Many people pray for clarity, but resist the very circumstances that bring it. They want direction without difficulty, growth without discomfort, strength without strain. But pressure sharpens focus. It forces priorities into alignment. What matters rises, what doesn't falls away. Under pressure, excuses lose their power and intention takes over. Pressure also reveals faith. Not the kind you speak out loud when everything is going well, but the kind you live when things are uncertain. Faith under pressure is choosing obedience over understanding. It's trusting the process when the process hurts. It's believing that what you're carrying now is shaping what you'll be capable of later. Pressure teaches you to lean, not on what you see, but on what you know deep inside. Every meaningful calling comes with resistance. If there's no resistance, there's no refinement. Pressure builds endurance. Endurance builds character. Character positions you for responsibility. You can't carry purpose if you haven't been strengthened by pressure. Weight is only a burden when you're not prepared for it. Pressure prepares you. Look back at your life, and you'll notice a pattern. The moments that changed you weren't the easy ones. They were the moments you didn't think you'd survive. The seasons that forced you to grow up, speak up, or stand alone. Those were not interruptions to your journey. They were the training ground. Pressure was teaching you how to lead yourself before you could lead anything else. Under pressure, you learn discipline. You learn consistency. You learn how to make decisions without emotional approval. You learn how to keep moving when motivation fades. These lessons don't come from inspiration alone. They come from endurance. From staying when quitting would be easier. From choosing responsibility when comfort is tempting. Pressure also humbles you. It reminds you that you're not self-made, that you need guidance, grace, and grit. It teaches you to listen more closely, to pray more honestly, to trust more deeply. It reshapes ego into humility and ambition into purpose. The truth is, pressure doesn't create greatness, it uncovers it. What's already inside you rises to the surface. When everything else is squeezed out, strength shows itself. Faith speaks louder. Purpose becomes clear because there's no room left for confusion. Pressure is not your enemy. It is the environment where purpose steps forward and introduces itself. Faith is not built on convenience. It is built on conviction. Anyone can believe when the outcome is visible, when the path is clear, when the evidence lines up neatly in front of them. But faith shows its true strength when the signs are missing, when the progress feels slow, and when the answers don't come on schedule. Faith over fear is not a slogan. It is a decision made daily, sometimes hourly, especially when logic argues against hope. Fear speaks in probabilities. It measures risk, counts loss, and rehearses failure. It asks, what if it doesn't work? And what if you fall again? Fear is loud, persistent, and convincing because it sounds practical. But faith speaks in promises. It doesn't deny reality, it rises above it. Faith says, even if I don't see the way, I trust the one who does. Choosing faith doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means fear no longer has the final word. Living by faith without evidence requires surrendering control. Evidence gives comfort because it allows you to predict outcomes. Faith requires you to move without guarantees, to step forward before the ground feels solid, to obey before understanding. That uncertainty is what makes faith powerful. If you could prove it, you wouldn't need to trust it. If you could explain it, you wouldn't need to believe it. Some of the greatest breakthroughs begin with obedience that makes no sense to anyone else. You keep showing up to a place that hasn't rewarded you yet. You keep preparing for an opportunity that hasn't arrived. You keep believing in a version of yourself that hasn't been revealed. Faith is continuing to water the ground when there is no visible harvest, trusting that roots are forming beneath the surface. Fear wants proof before action. Faith produces action before proof. Fear waits for confidence to appear. Faith moves and lets confidence catch up. Every time you choose faith, you weaken fear's grip. Every step taken in belief, no matter how small, retrains your mind to trust possibility instead of limitation. Faith over fear also requires patience. Evidence is often delayed, not denied. What you don't see is not a sign that nothing is happening. Growth is often silent before it is celebrated. Seeds don't announce their progress, but they are still working. Faith understands timing. Fear panics when results aren't immediate. Faith rests in the understanding that preparation is happening, even in stillness. When you operate in faith, you begin to see differently. You stop interpreting delays as failures and start seeing them as protection. You stop viewing closed doors as rejection and start recognizing redirection. Faith gives meaning to moments that fear labels as wasted. It allows you to trust that nothing endured in belief is ever lost. Choosing faith also strengthens discipline. When there is no applause, No recognition, no reassurance. Discipline becomes an act of belief. You commit to consistency, not because you feel inspired, but because you trust the outcome. Faith-driven discipline is what keeps you aligned when emotions fluctuate. It anchors you to purpose when motivation fades. Faith without evidence demands courage because it exposes you to criticism. People will question your decisions, your optimism, your refusal to quit. But faith is not validated by public opinion. It is validated by perseverance. It grows stronger every time you choose to believe beyond what you can see, hear, or measure. Fear wants you to stay where you are. Faith calls you forward. One shrinks possibility, the other expands it. The life you are meant to live exists on the other side of fear, and faith is the bridge that carries you there. A delay is not a denial, even though it often feels that way when time stretches longer than expected and answers remain silent. Delays challenge patience because they remove momentum and replace it with waiting. In that waiting, doubt tries to rewrite the story, convincing you that nothing is happening or that you were wrong to believe in the first place. But preparation often disguises itself as postponement. What looks like a pause on the surface is frequently progress beneath it. Delays force you to slow down long enough to become who the next level requires. If everything arrived on your schedule, you might receive the blessing without the capacity to sustain it. Timing matters because growth is not only about reaching something, it's about being ready when you arrive. Delays create space for maturity, wisdom, and strength to develop before responsibility increases. In moments of delay, character is refined. When results are immediate, integrity is rarely tested. But when effort goes unrewarded and recognition is absent, your true motives surface. You learn whether you are committed to the outcome or to the process itself. Delays teach perseverance without applause, faith without confirmation, discipline without deadlines. These lessons cannot be rushed. A delay also protects you from consequences you cannot yet see. What you want may be good, but the timing may not be safe. There are connections not yet formed, skills not yet sharpened, and understanding not yet deep enough. The delay becomes a shield, keeping you from stepping into situations unprepared. What feels like being held back is often being held together. Waiting seasons sharpen awareness. When movement slows, reflection increases. You begin to notice habits that need correcting, patterns that need breaking, and strengths that need strengthening. Delays expose weaknesses not to shame you, but to strengthen you. They give you time to confront areas that would eventually collapse under pressure if left unaddressed. Delays also stretch faith. Believing is easy when progress is visible. Trusting becomes harder when nothing changes externally. In delay, faith shifts from expectation to endurance. You learn to trust the purpose, even when the pace is uncomfortable. You discover that faith is not just about receiving, but about remaining consistent while waiting. Preparation happens quietly. Skills are built in repetition. Confidence grows in obscurity. Wisdom forms through experience, not shortcuts. Delays create a controlled environment where growth can happen without the spotlight. They allow mistakes to become lessons rather than public failures. In delay, you gain competence without exposure. There is also alignment happening during delays. People, opportunities, and circumstances are being positioned in ways you cannot orchestrate. What you perceive as lost time is often synchronization. When the timing is right, multiple elements converge, making progress feel sudden, even though it was long in the making. Delays teach you to separate urgency from importance. Not everything needs to happen now. Some things need to happen right. Patience becomes a form of wisdom, teaching you to value longevity over immediacy. You begin to understand that rushing into the wrong moment can cost more than waiting for the right one. What feels like stagnation is often stabilization. Foundations are being reinforced so that future weight can be carried. Without delays, growth would be shallow and unstable. The waiting season strengthens roots so that when advancement comes, it lasts. Delays are not punishment. They are preparation disguised as waiting. Discipline is the quiet force that shapes outcomes long before they become visible. Destiny is often mistaken for chance, talent, or timing, but beneath every meaningful achievement is a pattern of consistent choices. Discipline is choosing what matters most over what feels good in the moment. It is not dramatic, and it is rarely celebrated, but it is dependable. When motivation fades, discipline remains, guiding actions even when emotions resist. Every day presents a decision point between comfort and commitment. Comfort offers ease, shortcuts, and excuses. Discipline offers structure, repetition, and responsibility. Destiny is not formed in a single defining moment, but in thousands of small, unseen decisions that accumulate over time. What you repeatedly practice becomes what you eventually live. Discipline transforms intention into identity. Discipline builds trust with yourself. Each time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce belief in your own word. Confidence is not manufactured through positive thinking alone. It is earned through kept promises. When you know you will do what you say, even when it is inconvenient, self-respect grows. That self-respect becomes the foundation for leadership, resilience, and purpose. Many people wait to feel ready before acting, but discipline acts without permission from feelings. Feelings change daily, sometimes hourly. Discipline provides stability when emotions fluctuate. It allows progress to continue regardless of mood, environment, or external validation. By relying on discipline instead of inspiration, you remove unpredictability from your growth. Discipline also sharpens focus. When your actions are intentional, distractions lose their power. Time is no longer wasted debating what to do next, because your priorities are already defined. Discipline eliminates decision fatigue by creating routines that protect energy for what truly matters. With focus comes efficiency, and with efficiency comes momentum. Destiny responds to consistency. Sporadic effort produces sporadic results. Discipline creates rhythm, and rhythm creates reliability. Over time, disciplined habits compound, producing outcomes that appear sudden but are the result of long-term commitment. What others call luck is often discipline, operating quietly over time. Discipline is also an act of faith. You commit to a process without immediate reward, trusting that the results will come later. You plant seeds, knowing the harvest is not immediate. This delayed gratification strengthens patience and reinforces belief in the process. Discipline trains you to value progress over praise and growth over recognition. Through discipline, resilience is developed. When challenges arise, disciplined individuals do not collapse because their foundation is strong. They adapt without abandoning their values. Discipline teaches you how to recover quickly, recalibrate, and continue forward without losing direction. It provides structure during chaos and clarity during uncertainty. Discipline also reveals character. It exposes what you prioritize when no one is watching. Integrity is built in private long before it is tested in public. Destiny is entrusted to those who can manage themselves consistently. Without discipline, potential remains unrealized. With discipline, potential becomes performance. The disciplined life is not restrictive, it is freeing. It removes chaos, reduces regret, and creates alignment between vision and action. Discipline allows you to move intentionally rather than reactively. It replaces impulse with purpose and replaces drift with direction. Over time, discipline reshapes identity. You stop seeing discipline as something you do and start seeing it as who you are. Your standards rise. Your tolerance for excuses lowers. You become dependable, focused, and prepared. Destiny is not something you stumble into. It is something you build through disciplined living. Setbacks have a way of distorting perspective. In the moment, they feel like failure, like proof that effort was wasted and progress was an illusion. But setbacks are not evidence of weakness. They are indicators of engagement. You only experience resistance when you are moving forward. Every setback you encountered required you to adjust, endure, and rise. And in doing so, your foundation became stronger than it was before. A foundation is not built in moments of success. It is built in moments of strain. When things go wrong, systems are tested. Beliefs are tested. Commitment is tested. Each setback exposes gaps that need reinforcement. Instead of destroying progress, setbacks reveal what must be strengthened to sustain future growth. What feels like collapse is often correction. Every setback forces adaptation. You learn new strategies, develop resilience, and gain perspective that comfort never teaches. When the original plan fails, creativity is activated. Flexibility becomes a skill. Setbacks expand capacity by pushing you beyond familiar limits. You discover strength you didn't know you had because you had no choice but to use it. Setbacks also deepen humility. They remind you that progress is not solely dependent on effort, but also on timing, wisdom, and alignment. Humility keeps you teachable. It opens you to guidance, reflection, and refinement. Without setbacks, pride grows unchecked. With them, awareness sharpens. Through setbacks, endurance is formed. Endurance is not built by avoiding difficulty, but by surviving it repeatedly. Each time you recover, you prove to yourself that failure is not fatal. The fear of trying again diminishes because experience has taught you that recovery is possible. This endurance becomes emotional stability under pressure. Setbacks also refine priorities. When resources are limited and outcomes uncertain, you are forced to focus on what truly matters. Distractions fall away, energy is redirected. Setbacks clarify purpose by removing unnecessary noise. What remains is what is essential. Every setback contributes to mental toughness. You learn how to regulate emotion, manage disappointment, and maintain discipline when results don't reflect effort. This mental strength becomes part of your foundation, allowing you to stay grounded when circumstances fluctuate. Stability under stress is not accidental. It is trained through experience. Setbacks strengthen integrity. When progress stalls, shortcuts become tempting. Setbacks test whether you will compromise values for speed. Choosing integrity during delay reinforces character. It solidifies your foundation, ensuring that success, when it comes, rests on something stable. Each setback you survived increased your capacity to handle responsibility. Weight that once felt unbearable now feels manageable because you've carried it before. Your tolerance for pressure expanded. What once overwhelmed you now informs you. This growth is cumulative, built layer by layer through experience. Setbacks also enhance empathy. Having struggled, you recognize struggle in others. Compassion grows. Leadership becomes more effective because it is informed by understanding, not theory. A strengthened foundation supports not only your progress, but your ability to support others. What you thought set you back was actually setting you up with stability, wisdom, and resilience. Every fall reinforced the ground beneath you, making it strong enough to hold what's coming next. Talent gets attention, but consistency earns results. Talent can open doors, but consistency keeps them open. Many people rely on what comes naturally to them, assuming ability alone will carry them forward. But talent without commitment is unreliable. It shows up when it feels like it and disappears when conditions are uncomfortable. Consistency, on the other hand, is dependable. It does not negotiate with mood, circumstance, or applause. Talent often creates early success, and early success can create complacency. When things come easily, effort feels optional. Consistency is built differently. It is forged through repetition, discipline, and patience. It requires showing up even when there is no immediate reward. Over time, consistent effort outpaces raw ability because it compounds. Small actions repeated daily become powerful forces. When talent quits, it is usually because the work stopped being exciting. Progress slowed, resistance increased, the praise faded. Consistency does not depend on excitement. It depends on commitment. It understands that mastery is not glamorous. It is routine. It is uncelebrated work done faithfully over time. While talent waits for inspiration, consistency creates momentum. Consistency develops skill in ways talent alone cannot. Each repetition sharpens technique, deepens understanding, and builds confidence. Mistakes become feedback instead of discouragement. Consistency turns practice into progress. What begins as effort eventually becomes instinct. This is how ordinary ability becomes exceptional performance. Consistency also builds resilience. When challenges arise, consistent individuals are not easily shaken because they are anchored in habit. Quitting feels unnatural because persistence has become normal. Consistency trains the mind to endure boredom, frustration, and uncertainty without losing direction. This endurance is what carries people through long seasons where results are delayed. Talent often seeks validation. It wants recognition to confirm worth. Consistency finds value in the process itself. It measures success by adherence to standards rather than external approval. This internal stability protects progress from the influence of opinions, comparisons, and temporary setbacks. Consistency also creates trust. People trust those who show up repeatedly. Opportunities are given to those who are reliable. Responsibility is entrusted to those who are predictable in effort. Consistency builds a reputation that talent alone cannot sustain. It signals discipline, maturity, and dependability. When talent quits, consistency adapts. It adjusts strategy without abandoning purpose. It learns, recalibrates, and continues. Consistency does not interpret obstacles as stop signs, but as signals to improve. It remains flexible without losing focus. Over time, consistency closes the gap between vision and reality. Each day of effort brings alignment closer. The distance between who you are and who you aim to become shrinks through repeated action. Consistency bridges that gap quietly, steadily, without spectacle. Consistency also humbles ego. It reminds you that progress is earned, not assumed. It replaces entitlement with effort. It teaches respect for the process and patience with growth. This humility strengthens character and sustains progress. Talent may impress early, but consistency determines longevity. When motivation fades and difficulty increases, consistency continues to move forward. It does not rely on how it feels, only on what it has committed to do. In the long run, consistency outlasts talent because it never stops showing up. A shift in season is rarely announced. There is no loud signal, no immediate confirmation, no visible line between what was and what is becoming. Change begins quietly, often beneath the surface, while everything on the outside appears the same. The season shifts not when circumstances suddenly improve, but when alignment begins internally. Perspective changes before position does. Vision adjusts before outcomes follow. Many people miss their moment because they are looking for dramatic signs instead of subtle transitions. The season shifts when endurance replaces desperation, when patience matures into confidence, when you stop chasing validation and start standing in purpose. These internal changes signal readiness for external movement. Growth becomes evident long before results are visible. A new season often follows a long one. The weight of waiting stretches faith and tests commitment. What felt repetitive and stagnant was actually strengthening roots. Stability was forming. Endurance was being built. Seasons change only when foundations are secure enough to support what comes next. Without that security, advancement would collapse under its own weight. When the season shifts, opportunities feel different. They no longer arrive as possibilities you must force, but as alignments you are prepared to handle. What once overwhelmed you now feels manageable. What once intimidated you now feels familiar. This is not coincidence. It is preparation meeting timing. A season shifting in your favor does not mean ease replaces effort. It means effort begins to produce clarity. Resistance still exists, but it no longer defines the journey. Momentum replaces stagnation. Direction replaces confusion. You begin to recognize open doors because discernment has been sharpened through delay. Seasonal shifts also require letting go. Old habits, old mindsets, old identities that were necessary for survival are no longer suitable for growth. Holding on to what was comfortable can prevent access to what is next. A season shifting in your favor demands trust in transition. You must release what you've outgrown to receive what is aligned. When the season changes, responsibility increases. Favor is not given without expectation. Growth brings accountability. Opportunities demand stewardship. The new season requires the discipline, integrity, and consistency developed in the previous one. Nothing learned was wasted. Every lesson now becomes useful. A shift in season also reframes past pain. What once felt unfair begins to make sense. The struggle becomes context. The waiting becomes wisdom. The setbacks become training. The season that is shifting does not erase what came before. It redeems it. Everything endured now carries meaning. Discernment becomes essential in a new season. Not every opportunity is assignment. Not every open door is meant to be entered. A season shifting in your favor requires wisdom to choose alignment over availability. Saying no becomes as important as saying yes. As the season shifts, confidence becomes quieter. There is less need to announce progress because preparation has produced assurance. You move differently. Decisions are made with clarity instead of urgency. Faith becomes steady instead of strained. The season shifts when readiness meets opportunity, when preparation aligns with purpose, when growth catches up with calling. What once felt delayed now feels timely. What once felt uncertain now feels intentional. The change may not be loud, but it is undeniable. Winning is rarely a moment. It is a process that reveals itself over time. Victory is often imagined as a sudden breakthrough, but in reality it is built through belief reinforced by action. Belief alone inspires, but belief paired with action transforms. One without the other remains incomplete. To win requires trusting what you cannot yet see while moving as if it is already possible. Belief sets direction. Action gives it momentum. Belief shapes vision, but action shapes reality. Many people believe in change, but hesitate to act until certainty appears. Yet certainty is usually the result of movement, not the prerequisite. Action creates clarity. Each step forward sharpens understanding, strengthens confidence, and reinforces belief. Progress becomes proof. Winning demands alignment between what you say you believe and how you live daily. Words without behavior lose power. Belief must show up in habits, discipline, and decisions. When action reflects belief, integrity is formed. That integrity becomes fuel during moments of doubt. You trust yourself because your actions are consistent with your convictions. Victory is cumulative. It is the result of repeated choices made when no one is watching. Choosing effort over excuse. Preparation over procrastination. Faith over fear. These choices do not feel significant in isolation, but together they build unstoppable momentum. Small actions performed consistently become defining factors. Belief without action creates frustration. Action without belief creates burnout. But when belief and action work together, resilience forms. You endure challenges because you know why you started. You adjust strategy without abandoning purpose. You keep moving even when results are delayed, because belief sustains patience and action sustains progress. Winning also requires responsibility. Believing in a better outcome means accepting the work required to achieve it. Action transforms hope into ownership. You stop waiting for permission, validation, or perfect conditions. You recognize that movement itself invites opportunity. Doors open when effort meets readiness. Action strengthens belief through experience. Each completed task builds confidence. Each obstacle overcome reinforces faith. Doubt loses influence because evidence accumulates through effort. You no longer rely on motivation alone because discipline has taken over. Action becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Winning requires adaptability. Belief provides stability when plans change. Action allows flexibility without losing direction. You learn to pivot without quitting, adjust without retreating. Progress is measured not by perfection, but by persistence. Every action taken in alignment with belief refines strategy. Victory is not achieved by avoiding failure, but by responding to it effectively. Belief reframes failure as feedback. Action uses that feedback to improve. You learn quickly because you are willing to move, reflect, and move again. Stagnation loses its grip when action becomes consistent. Winning also demands patience. Belief understands timing. Action respects process. You resist shortcuts because you value sustainability. You remain committed even when growth feels slow. Patience becomes active rather than passive. You are waiting, but you are also working. Belief and action together create momentum that carries you forward even when circumstances resist. You are not dependent on external conditions to move. Internal alignment drives progress. Confidence becomes steady, not emotional. Effort becomes intentional, not reactive. Winning is not defined by comparison. It is personal, purposeful, and earned. Belief keeps your focus forward. Action keeps you grounded in responsibility. Together they form a rhythm that sustains progress through uncertainty, challenge, and change. Victory is not something you stumble into. It is something you build by believing deeply and acting consistently, day after day, choice after choice, even when the outcome is not yet visible.